We can use Server Manager to install roles and features, but in PowerShell we can do this as well, and we can even connect to remote computers and install Windows roles and features from our PowerShell command. So let's go ahead and start by seeing what's on our current server. So if we type in get-Windows feature, hit enter, and we see a lot of stuff that scrolls through. So what you can do is anytime you see an X, it means that that is installed. There we see .NET Framework, and we see there's not a lot on here. This is a new installation. It doesn't have a lot on there. So we see by default file and storage services, the file server is installed, and that is our get Windows feature. Now if we want to do that again, but we don't want to have it scroll all the way to the bottom, we can do a pipe space more, and then we can do it one page at a time, and it's a little bit easier to handle. If you want to go one line at a time, just hit the enter key. All right, so what we want to do is we want to install a feature. Now the interesting thing about Windows roles and features in Server Manager is that they're two separate things. But when you install the same kind of thing in PowerShell, it's all called a Windows feature. So even though some of these things that we're going to install are roles, it's in this particular case, we're still going to use the same install Windows feature command. If we want to see a help file to tell us what we can install, we just type in help and we'll put in install-Windows feature, and it'll let us know all the different things that we can install. So in this case, if we look at the syntax, we can see -computer name, credential, configuration, file path, all those different parameters. But what we want to do is we want to see some examples. So we'll type get-help install-Windows feature and then -examples. And here we see some roles such as installing IIS. We can do the web server role. We want to include all sub-features, etc. So let's actually go ahead and do this installation and see what we get here. So we'll go ahead and clear the screen. Let's start with the get-Windows feature-name and anything that starts with web dash, and then we have install feature. So that's one way we could do this, where it will go ahead and install a feature with any feature that starts with the web dash star. But we're going to be a little bit more specific in our command. Let's go ahead and type in install-Windows feature, followed by -name. We have to have a name for which feature we're going to install, and we'll type web server. Now let's include some of these other parameters, such as -include all sub feature. Then we want to do a -include management tools, because we want to be able to manage this new feature, which is really a role if you look at it from the Server Manager perspective. Then we want to say which computer. Now if you don't specify the computer, it's going to be the local computer. So we're going to, we're going to go ahead and put this in just in case you're installing this on another server. And we're going to put in the name of our server, which is Server 2019, which is also the operating system we're using. And then we're going to put in one more thing, and that's the credential. So if you are doing this on another server, you'll need the credentials in order to get this to install. So in this case, it's a domain-based computer, so we can put in administrator after the domain name. Now, if we just want to see what's going to happen without actually installing it, then we can do this other cool command parameter called what if. So what if just, all it does is it just goes in and says, here's what's going to happen if you type this command, rather than actually doing it. So I'll hit enter, and we get prompted for our password. And we see that's collecting data and seeing what's going to actually happen. And we can see all the what if commands that come after we type this, and we can see what's going to happen. And we get to the very bottom, it says, hey, success, this is going to work. You may need to restart. It doesn't know for sure if you're going to need to do a restart. And it sees shows the feature results of what the command is going to install. So we said, hey, this is great. Let's go ahead and do this. Go ahead and clear the screen. And let's go ahead and change. We'll take out what if, and we're going to take out the computer name and the username and password because there's really no need to since it's on the local computer itself that we're doing this. So we're just going to be installing the Windows feature, the web server. We're going to include all the sub-features and include the management tools and hit enter. So now it's doing the installation for real. Now that took a lot longer because it did the installation for real. It took almost 10 minutes, but the good news is that it was successful. So let's take a look at our server manager and go up to Tools, and there it is, Internet Information Services. So it did install. And we can go ahead and set up our web pages if we want. Very good. Let's type the get-Windows feature one more time. And let's take a look at all of the different options here. Let's go ahead and choose another installation. Now that was a role, that was a server role, although installed with the feature commandlet. But let's try installing instead a feature that would have been in Server Manager. So let's go ahead and take a look at Telnet Client. So we see Telnet Client is not installed, and we see the name to use to do the installation is Telnet-Client. So if we go back to our clear screen and we change the name from web server to Telnet-Client and hit enter. And we see our installation begin. So anytime you need to see the list of the Windows features, just type get-Windows feature and go ahead and use that name that is on the sort of the right hand side of the screen for the name for the install Windows feature name. And not everything has a sub-feature or management tools, but it doesn't hurt by having them afterwards because you may not know whether it has sub-features or management tools. In this case, Telnet Client does not have either, but as you can see, it did not hurt the command to go ahead and type it. So installing Windows features is pretty easy to do in PowerShell. There are a few additional parameters that you can add to make it so you can install on other computers, as well as many different roles at once, such as you can also type in a comma followed by the name of another feature you would like to install, and then you can do more than one feature at a time.